The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
As you know, billionaire Donald Trump has revealed he offered Barack Obama $50 million, a donation to the president's favorite charities, in exchange for releasing just a few of his personal records. Please say good morning and welcome to Denver, Colorado. Mike Valin is our guest from the Obama Certificate. Breaking news on the site with Trump as well. Hey, first of all, Michael, thanks for doing the radio show, being this early, and I really appreciate it, and welcome back.
Thank you very much, and good morning, Peter.
Yeah, I ask this of guests when they come on the show now, a little quick bio of yourself and where we're speaking to you from, and how, in this case, because we're going to spend a lot of time with this, what is your, let me, again, I guess the place base, begin at the beginning, a little bit about yourself and how you got into this fight.
The website is Where's Obama's Birth Certificate.com. We started the website 2008, prior to the first election of Obama, when it became apparent that he had no background. He was a mystery man. He was a jack-in-the-box. We had no idea who he was. Controversy started brewing about his background, whether he was born in Kenya. We wanted to see college records and medical records. We wanted to establish a background. And the mainstream media, Peter, was basically blowing us off. And we decided to create a site and a stamp. And the stamp was to bypass mainstream media. It's where I believe you have a stamp in the sheriff's kit, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, indeed. Yes, I do.
And the stamp, we stamped everything in sight. Currency, phone bills, everything in sight. And people would look at the stamp and say, let me look at this site. And it really, it worked. It worked for the longest time. And right up until the point where Donald Trump the first time came out and started questioning the birth certificate, and I'll get in a little bit more about that. I've got inside info in that. And then, by some chance, Peter, I hooked up with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Department. I'm in Dallas, Texas this morning traveling. As you know, I live in Pennsylvania. And we worked. They got the information out, but it still wasn't going anywhere, Peter. I sent you that universal shadowing video, which we made. You can hear Chris Matthews say that Donald Trump was born in Indonesia and had Muslim roots. Then you go on to hear the chief investigator, Mike Zulo, say they were supposed to be on the Sean Hannity show that night, and Hannity pulled the plug. Well, Peter, we took it and we made what's called a sheriff's kit, and you have one. It's got all the updated current information as of today that you need to look at the investigation, and more important, Peter, to go to your congressman, representative, radio stations like you have one, and get the word out. And that's what we struggled for all these years to get it out, Peter. I'm just an ordinary working person. I have no magic skills or anything like that, but I'm determined to get the truth out. And that's the history of Where's Obama's Birth Certificate.com.
All right, I'm going to put you up on hold for a second and play Donald Trump. And when this drops yesterday, day before yesterday, because then yesterday we pick it up, it's interesting, and I made this observation yesterday. I'll make it to you today and have your response, and we'll play it again for the audience. Do you recall when the phony birth certificate arrives, and it's the overnight PDF file, the scanned-in file, and how the media rejoiced that they were going to shut me up and you up and all the people who have managed to ask questions about Barack Obama, and how they were waiting in the hangar for the helicopter that Trump was in, and I believe it was one of those helicopters that could taxi, and they were waiting for him to go out and try and make him eat crow. And of course, we have now put our hands on this. There is no paper document, as people should know. It's a layered document, a document that was scanned, only have one layer after another layer, a layered electronically manipulated document showing the birth certificate the White House used. That PDF file has 9 layers. It was actually an assembled electric document, not a scanned paper document. First of all, before we go any further, I know you accept that as the truth, Mike, but am I on the money by saying that?
Couldn't have said it any better, Peter.
All right, thank you. So we go from there about exactly what this is. So this is Donald Trump. Now, I guess my question here is how the media, I remember MSNBC, I remember CNN, I remember NBC, all the networks waiting with their cameras and their ace reporters to try and make Trump eat crow. Trump comes back with and you can see it, we have a video up, it's up on our website, 710knus.com, and he says what he says, and he ups the ante to $50 billion, and shockingly, 50 million, shockingly, and I say that winky, it was not on Brian Williams, it was not on locally on Channel 9, it has not been in the Denver Post, but boy, they had the field day when the phony certificate dropped. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Donald Trump.
Going back a few years, do you regret questioning President Obama's citizenship? Why or why not?
Not even a little bit. I don't regret it. Why would I regret it? He came out with a book that wasn't published. You remember the famous book, and it said a young man on the cover, a young man from Kenya. I offered him a tremendous amount of money just to show his right. I didn't want to see his marks. I just wanted to see place of birth. So look, there are three things that could happen. And one of them did happen. He was perhaps born in Kenya. Very simple, okay? He was perhaps born in this country, but said he was born in Kenya. Because if you say you were born in Kenya, you got aid and you got into colleges. And people were doing that. So perhaps he was born in this country, and that has a very big chance. Or, who knows? Maybe it was all right. Now, I offered $5 million to just see the records. And I'll tell you what, he would have done a great service, because there are millions of people. There are people in this country. I walk down the street, and they're saying, please don't give up on the whole thing with the birth certificate. Now, I hope that it's 100% fine. A lot of people are questioning the birth certificate. They're questioning its authenticity. But I do say this. I offered $5 million just to see some basic records. Not the marks, not the this, nothing. Just some basic things on applications to colleges. I'd love to see what's put down. Why didn't a man take $5 million for his favorite charity? Now then, what wasn't reported by the press is sometime just prior to the expiration date of that offer, I raised the offer to $50 million. $50 million for charity. Pick your charity, $50 million, let me see your records. And I never heard from him. So I would take it. I would take it, and I'd give it to Chicago charities, and I'd give it to all sorts of charities, and they can use the money. So it's one of those three things. Either it's fine, or he was born in Kenya, or in my opinion, there's a very good chance he was born here and said he was born in Kenya. Because if you were born in Kenya, you got into colleges and you got aid. Very simple.
So that's the $50 million offer. Now, again, although I knew it wouldn't happen just for grins, I made sure I watched the national evening news on all three networks. I watched the dominant cables, the Morning Denver Post, local news outlets. Forget it. But I just want people to think, compare and contrast how Donald Trump was treated when this phony birth certificate arrives versus in the last 56 or 70 hours. Your thoughts about that as well, Mike?
Peter, it could be $500 million. There's no birth certificate. That birth certificate's a phony. When Donald Trump first came out in April of 2011, he was asked by the surprise Tea Party of Arizona to look into this. They had a private meeting, the leaders, and Trump agreed to at least look at why there was no birth certificate posted. $27, I can get my birth certificate all day long, every day. Then that phony birth certificate was posted probably because Trump had the microphone, and don't forget, Jerome Corsi was coming out with his book.
Absolutely. That's well said. Thank you.
With that said, Peter, I wanted to let you know, I was going to release this yesterday, but when your producer, Casey, and I thank him for getting me on the show here, we contacted Trump over the last 3 months to say, I convinced the surprise Tea Party Arizona people, and I'd like to thank Jeff Lichter and Gabe, to contact Trump again, to give him an overview and say, okay, Donald, thank you very much. They did release a birth certificate, thanks to you, but it's phony and it's forged, and we need your help. We need you to take a second look at this. And Peter, what I wanted to tell everybody is Donald Trump has a sheriff's kit, and he's probably been looking at it for the past 2 or 3 months, And I'm hoping that's why he stepped forward, because he realizes that thing's phony. Probably that's why he stepped forward. And people tell me, well, Trump's an entrepreneur. He wants a microphone. So be it, Peter. We need everybody's help in this ball game to get the truth out. And Donald Trump is one to get the word out.
I know this is me whistling in the wind, but I had an idea about 2 years ago. And I know that you know Trump. We have a few people that know Trump. Trump could, and maybe you could pass this on. I have attempted, and you know, I don't blame Trump for not listening to anything I have to say, but you know what we should do, Mike, and then we'll move into issues, is have what they do in academics or science. We need a summit. We need a symposium, a seminar. Trump is the one guy who could pull this together and get people like yourself and get Corsi and Cashhill and Linda Jordan and Ketchner and the people that I respect, Joel Gilbert, and you know the list goes on from there, and bring them together and do presentations of papers, look at evidence, have panel discussions, and in the end of a 3-day weekend, have write a report, write a paper, write a conclusion, and what there is or what there is not. I don't know if it would gather to it any mainstream media attention. I think some people may pay attention to it, but I think more importantly, with the exception of Jerry Corsi, I've never met in the 9 years I've been involved in the story and the investigation. And I met Jerry in Washington 2 different times. Short of that, I've never met anybody. I take it back. I met Joel Gilbert. But we've never been face-to-face. You and I have never been face-to-face, but I've known you 9 years. And I would love to see that done because people sometimes run at odds. But the interesting thing in science, medicine, history, where they bring these people together and people present papers and people get to critique one another, and you really do come up with some I think, some brilliant information. The question of eligibility, I think, is an important question, maybe the most significant one that's run in this country in quite a while when it comes to presidential politics. Do you think there's any reasonable possibility that you could speak with Trump? And the other part of it, too, given Internet abilities today, I work with one of the greatest of all time, a guy named Mark Crowley. We could do this online today. You know, we could simply do it. We could see one another. Other people across the country could join in. And even if we did it in one of Trump's hotels or an organization someplace with all of us, people could watch it online. I mean, we don't need the damn networks or, for that matter, CNN or Fox or anybody. We could simply do it ourselves. And last night I was working on the project again, talking to some people. The iron is hot. I think it's time to strike.
Peter, that's a great idea. I know we've talked about that in the past. I will work on that.
Would you?
Most of the people you spoke about, I speak to. I could just pick up the phone and we're on a one-on-one basis because we're all on the same page.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to take some work, Peter, but I'm going to see what I can do. I'm going to ask Charles Kirshner, Commander Kirshner, to help me with that.
Yeah, and I know you know some of the right people. Jerry went to Harvard with a guy that knows Trump, and that's one of the ways we're going to talk with Jerry today as well. But it is time. I mean, it's truly time. And the last couple of days, now Trump has upped the ante, and, you know, I suspect that Trump has people out there that, it's that great line from The Godfather where it's Jack Wartz, who really is Jack Warner, and he says, a guy in my position, you know, can't be afforded to be made to look like a fool. Well, the Obama media laydowns made Donald Trump look like a fool. They really did. And they blindly accepted what was clearly, at least from everybody that I respect, a forgery. I mean, we're going to have somebody speak about the birth certificate today, but you and I know. I mean, I the second day that thing was down, we had these guys come and just unlayer it.
Peter,
yes, sir.
When they mock Trump, they never. When they mock us, you and everybody else in this fight, they never mention the Maricopa County Sheriff's Department investigation. It's always you're a kook, you don't know what you're talking about. They never get to the hard evidence that the Sheriff's Department has. It's always trying to label us as people from outer space with tinfoil hats.
Well, that's okay.
They have no substance.
That's okay, but that doesn't respond to the argument. In other words, what I've learned in this 9 years is I get called a racist, a bigot, all these kinds of things, a conspiracy theory, a Nazi sometimes, just for simply asking a question. But they don't respond when you come to something, for instance, on the birth certificate, it says father's race, and it says African. Well, there is no such thing as the African race, and especially there would not be anybody, and when people have looked at birth certificates from Hawaii for African Americans using the politically correct term of 2014, they find colored or they find Negro. But he's got to be the only guy born in Hawaii. And from a white mom, a black dad, it doesn't matter. But it would not say race African. And that comes from this imaginary kid that I have called Jimmy Down the Hall. And Jimmy Down the Hall was a little politically correct computer geek, and he made Barack Obama's birth certificate. I do not believe for a second that woman made that night flight. The attorney who comes back to Washington, D.C., they could have sent that by email. That could have went on the Internet. That could have been sent to the president by email. Instead, they chose a private sector attorney from his law firm, his private sector law firm, who goes on a night flight to Hawaii to bring back a PDF file. Now, at face value, Mike, you can't accept that as the truth.
Well, don't forget, Peter, when that paper allegedly came back, the AP photographed it, and it had a blue safety background,
Yes.
not green like
That's
it's
right.
supposed to. And when Savannah Guthrie photographed it, there's no security background on the paper.
Not. Of course not. I mean, and that, let me put you on hold, do a few things, we'll bring you back. This is going to be one of those mornings for us. This was put together, the guys did a great job on this, and it's entitled 10 Facts That Suggest Obama's Birth Certificate is a Fake. And it goes into some things at Columbia University and it's just really well put together. And it's entitled 10 Facts That Suggest Obama's Birth Certificate is a Fake. Now, I would urge you to go to our website, 710knus.com. Also, we have Agenda 21 stuff up. We have the billboards that were on this side of the border, Plato Oplomo, the damn race, 10 reasons Obama's birth certificate is a fake, the video of Donald Trump and the $50 million offer, and yesterday a picture, and he'll be with us this morning. He's not quite yet the former principal of Columbine High School, but there was a surprise party for Frank, and it's picture Frank and I, so that's good stuff. This guy's great. He's one of those guys that we've been friends with forever. His name is Mike Boleyn, and he has been in the Who is Barack Obama fight for, as a matter of fact, for as long as I can remember. I was going to ask you this because I get to do this. What was the trigger? What was the moment, Mike, when you realized that something wasn't right?
It was a compilation of things. It was asking for his birth certificate. It was asking for his college records. It was asking for his medical records. Then the Jeremiah Wright connection with the church in Chicago. It was about 10 things, Peter. And when it came to the 10th thing, I said to my wife, there's something wrong here. It's not one thing. It's not two things. It's 10 things. And we said, well, let's get some inquiries out there. And then when that selective service registration 40 came back with the forged stamp of 1980, that's in the sheriff's kit too, came back, we said, we have to do something. There's something wrong here. They're trying to push him in the door to get him in there. And then when we started investigating, we found out that, staying in that church for 20 years, he didn't hear any of those sermons against the government.
Yeah, sure.
And, Peter, one more thing. Your audience has tremendous support for me, and I want to thank them. And what I suggest they can do, Peter, is to hammer Trump with phone calls, tell him to keep going, get a sheriff kit. You have it, Peter. I professionally made it. It's laid out. It's easy to understand. Get a kit and bring it to your representative. Lay it on their desk. Pile it on top of each kit. We want to get the word out. I just came back from Congress, Peter, the 19th and the 20th. I was in the halls of Congress, and I did revisit some people who were on board, and I gave out 85 kits, and I went back to Corey Gardner's office and gave him an update and a briefing, and he's still interested. Peter, one more thing, BirthaReport.com. It's a daily online website, and he updates it almost daily. He's got the latest Donald Trump articles. He's been out there forever, hardworking, just like me. We take money out of our pocket. We don't make a penny on this. It's just about getting our country back, and that's BirthaReport.com.
Let me ask you a question that comes up, and been asked numbers of times, was asked yesterday again. Suppose that what you believe all turns out to be true. In other words, all of this is true. Now, what happens?
I think the government will be turned upside down. It's not just Obama, Peter. You have to realize this. They pushed him in the door. They knew what was going on. Nancy Pelosi was key in getting him in the door. Forged documents. Everybody knows, Peter, there's a few congressmen that are true to the earth that know exactly what's going on. I have them all together, and we're waiting to pull the trigger. And the corruption is so widespread. Peter, once they got him in the door and he became inaugurated the president, there was no looking back for him. He said, okay, I have the power to mess with everybody. I'm going to cancel all freedom of information requests. They have to come through the White House. It's unbelievable. But, you know, that's what's going to make them, that's their slip-up, Peter. They think they can control everybody.
What will it say about, and there's no question in my mind that what this, quote, official story of his life is a lie. And there's been way too much proof offered, including that statement Trump made yesterday. We've talked about that before. His original publisher, and everyone, or not everyone, but people interested in the topic have seen the biography, the biography that he wrote, where he himself claims that he was born in Kenya. I'm like Trump. I believe nothing else. He's unbelievably opportunistic, unbelievably shark-like. It's like trying to find out the times when he is in Chicago as a community organizer. What exactly did he do? And this is where he meets Reverend Wright. Now, there's these stories where he comes up with after-school basketball games or those kinds of things. But there's no real solid day-to-day, this is what Barack Obama did. And I'm fascinated by that kind of stuff. But having said that, and let that go, coming full circle, if the mainstream press has to look at this finally and say, oh, my God, all the things that we said, all the people's lives that we attempted to destroy, I mean, I was written against and cartooned about for years by the Denver papers for doing this. And now they've all gone silent. And I'll leave you with one other thing, or have you comment in this segment about one other thing. There's a friend of mine who is in Congress, and I won't mention his name because it will probably cause him problems. But he said, we all know back here that the story's not straight. And I was floored that he said that. But he said, we all know the story is not straight. What do you do with that?
Peter, I got frustrated when I started hearing that. When I would be asked to leave Congressman's office, I knew exactly. I mean, I'm the kind of guy where I have a face-to-face meeting with you. I look you in the eye when I give you the evidence and the presentation. I think they're scared to death. They're worried about their own reelection and getting reelected. They don't want to touch it because they feel they'll be left alone out there. With that, we've been gathering one by one. We have a gang ready to go. It's unbelievable. How can the congressmen turn their backs and say, we know about it? We know that we have a usurper, and our country's being destroyed. That's Obama's plan. It's amazing.
See,
it's a different country.
Well, what a statement. When you look at this in its totality, and there are numbers of conspiracy theories around this president. And last night, to try and do a better radio show, I went over a bunch of different stuff last night. And I mean, I'm pretty good at this, but I wanted to make sure that we were real good at this and pulled up some old notes, some things that, you know, we were involved in the Terry Lakin story. I know Terry Lakin. He lives here now. I mean, he's a hell of a guy. That man's life was ruined. They ruined the life of Colonel Terry Lakin, and they didn't even blink. I mean, they didn't even blink. The mainstream press, the Denver Post, the locals, they didn't even blink when Lakin ends up in Leavenworth. I mean, case after case, person after person. And it's a violation of the Constitution. And yet here we sit. And I don't know what the story is, but I would be willing to go to Vegas and bet my last dime that the official story of Barack Obama's life is not true. And it's not true not just on one level, it's not true on any and all levels. Do you buy into that?
Absolutely. There's something wrong somewhere.
Then
what we're going to find out will be shocking.
What's the true story? What do you think the true story is?
There's many theories, there's many speculations about who he is. He may not even know his entire past, where he came from. I believe he was adopted and passed along.
See?
Yes.
Wow.
And right. And I believe we're going to find out exactly who's behind this. You know, it's just not Obama doing this. He's a puppet. Somebody's pulling his string. I believe that when his usefulness is over, they're going to throw him under the bus. They're going to gang up, and it's going to be, when mainstream comes out, oh, what a shock. We've been deceived. How could they do that? And then that'll be a diversion to get the next candidate in office. And I want to go back to that universal shattering video. You can hear Mike Zulo say the media shut this down 24 hours after.
Yeah.
Chris Matthews called up the sheriff's department and wanted to get information. They were supposed to be on Hannity, and Mike said media execs and newscasters were threatened with their job careers and told not to talk about it. It would be a different country today if one person picked up the microphone in mainstream media back then, Peter.
I say this. I mean, it looks like, and I'm certainly not on the inside, but a reader, Karl Rove, George Bush's brain, is by and large in charge of Fox News. Now, when this Trump video happens, and you can see Trump, he's at the National Press Club, and he's getting applause for what he said, which I thought was significant as well. I thought, wow, Fox News will go with this. Nothing. And, you know, I think that Karl Rove was one of the most despicable people in this country today. And I think they kill these stories, what the business calls spiking. And why would not, here's Donald Trump putting the money up. Why would Trump not, or why wouldn't Fox do it?
I don't trust Karl Rove. I trust him about as far as I can throw, Peter. There's something wrong there. I don't know if he's being manipulated. He probably likes headlines and there's a little chalkboard there or whiteboard, whatever he has there. It just doesn't make any sense. This should be the biggest news on the media every day, 24 hours a day.
So what happens next?
We have our faith in the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. I spoke to my contact yesterday. You know, I'm in contact with Mike Zulo. I spoke to another contact. Yeah. I have been assured yesterday it is coming, the investigation. When it's ready, it will come out, Peter. It's a police department investigation. They're not going to release any information prior to when it's ready. They're trying to get everything together so that when we release it, the information comes out, people can understand it. I don't want the problem during the first press conference of the media bypassing it, ignoring it, or a distraction. They're waiting for the right time, probably. They're still investigating some information. And information does pour in every day. People are turning their back, Peter. People who are supporters saying, wait a minute, I'm getting hit in the wallet with this Obamacare. This is not what I was promised. Let me take another look at this. And they're turning their back, and information is coming in on a daily basis.
Do you, I mean, it's all projection at this point. Is it conceivable that Trump would host a summit, if you would, for everyone? I mean, if he wants, you know, and I know he wants action. I know that he wants to redeem himself. He doesn't need money. He certainly doesn't need power. He doesn't need image. But he got knocked back pretty hard by the mainstream press. And those of us who knew the truth knew that Trump was still right. Having said that, I wonder to what extent he would go to bring a lot of these people together. And we'd carry it live, obviously. We'd carry it on the internet. You could stream it. We could show it. We could own our own network when we do it. Simply need a place or places to be. And have people, you know, and give guys like Corsi, Gilbert, that list of people, yourself, maybe Joe would come, and I'm sure Joe would come, and I'm sure he would bring Mike with him, and I'm sure you'd be surprised who might come out of the woodwork on this. And do get together, but show it transparently in the open when Corsi and, you know, Gilbert, and they have differing senses of an early childhood. But both of them know, or believe, I should say, that the original birth story is a lie. I mean, I went last night and I yanked out the Democratic Party's responses, and they still say, you know, he's 2.5 years of age, his mother and father were married, they go to the airport because daddy's going to Harvard. You know, and I know, and everybody else that has an ounce of brains about this knows, Mike, that's not true. She takes off. She goes to Washington State. That baby's 9 days of age, 10 days of age. Of course, he has the rent receipts, the college stuff, knows the people who babysat little Barack. And yet the Democratic Party and the mainstream press, so they go to, and Daddy's going to Harvard. That's an absolute lie. Or that they were married, or that they lived together, or they lived any of those things. They're simply not true. And how do you break down that wall?
Through hard work, through the sheriff's department, who is relentless in what they're doing every day. One day when this breaks, Peter, we'll be thanking them. I can tell you this, Barack Obama Sr. is not Barack Obama's daddy.
Yeah.
Absolutely, positively not.
Yeah.
This whole thing will be unwound. Peter, I'm going to tell you and your audience, I will do whatever I can to get Trump, to get the symposium together.
Yeah,
I'll reach out to
right,
my
Bubba.
contacts.
I'll talk to you, man. Thanks for doing the show, Mike.
Hey, Peter, thank you very much.
Right,
Go to my website. My phone number is right there. Call the phone number. I answer the phone. If anybody has a tip, it's 570-394-2570.
You know, we'll talk next week, but if you could get to Trump, and I know that, I mean, this is the time to do it. Summer's here. Time is right, as they said, for dancing in the streets. Thanks, brother.
Thanks. I have you produce the cell phone number. I'll be in touch.
Hi, Bubba.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.